Welcome to NTD Evening News. Our top story tonight, the feud between President Trump and Elon Musk continues. While Trump is focused on rallying support for his big, beautiful bill, Iris Towle tells us what he says about the tech billionaire today and what's next in U.S.-China trade talks. Russia reportedly launches a major attack on Ukraine's capital city. Kyiv says most of the casualties are first responders who had rushed to the scene of one of the strikes. Arian Pazdar has the details. Residents in Lebanon react to more Israeli airstrikes in their capital. Meanwhile, we take a look at a new laser weapon system that Israeli troops are now using in the field. Jason Perry reports. The European Union throwing its support behind the International Criminal Court after Washington imposed sanctions on 4 ICC judges for taking actions against the U.S. and Israel. Luis Martinez with the latest. And deported Salvadoran immigrant Kilmar Abrego-Garcia returns to the U.S. today to face a 2-count criminal indictment.
This is NTD Evening News, live from our global headquarters in New York City. Here's Tiffany Meyer.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight. Attorney General Pam Bondi announced today that deported Salvadoran immigrant Kilmar Abrego-Garcia has been returned to the U.S.
We're here today to announce a major update in an important case. Abrego-Garcia has landed in the United States to face justice. On May 21st, a grand jury in the Middle District of Tennessee returned a sealed indictment charging Abrego-Garcia with alien smuggling and conspiracy to commit alien smuggling in violation of Title 8 U.S.C. 1324. We want to thank President Bukele for agreeing to return Abrego-Garcia to the United States. Our government presented El Salvador with an arrest warrant, and they agreed to return him to our country.
Bondi alleges Abrego-Garcia has played a significant role in the smuggling for about 9 years, including over 100 trips to traffic thousands of non-citizens throughout the U.S. Some of those individuals were women and children. Others, Bondi said, were MS-13 gang members and violent terrorists. Abrego-Garcia is also charged with transporting minor children for profit. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche said he wasn't sure whether Abrego-Garcia's return would facilitate an end to the pending legal case against the administration. At least 4 people are reported dead in Kyiv after an intense missile and drone barrage. Ukraine says hundreds of drones were unleashed on its capital city. NTD's international correspondent Arian Pazdar has the war update.
Residential buildings in Kiev sustained damage on Friday amid an attack by Russia. Moscow reportedly launched over 400 drones and 40 missiles at Ukraine's capital city and other regions. Most of them were intercepted, but some hit people's homes, often near the windows.
Usually we stay in the corridor during attacks, but this time my wife insisted that we also sleep in the corridor, so I can say she saved my life.
According to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, the strikes damaged city infrastructure, hotels and more. Officials say at least 3 of the casualties were first responders who had rushed to the scene of one of the strikes. Not just Kiev, but other cities report being hit as well. Video posted on social media shows large explosions in the western Ukrainian city of Ternopil. Zelensky is now calling on Western allies to impose additional sanctions on Russia.
Please, I ask you to support all the efforts to put pressure on Russia, including political and economic pressure. Please urge for new effective sanctions against Russia.
Russia also commented on Friday's attacks. A spokesman said the strikes came in response to an attack by Kiev on a passenger train in Russia, which reportedly killed multiple civilians. Kiev has not taken responsibility for the attack.
So if you have carefully read the statement by our defense ministry, it said that the strikes were carried out in response to terrorist attacks by the Kiev regime.
Russian officials also said that Moscow struck only military and military-related targets in Friday's attack, not civilian targets. Also on Friday, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz returned to his home country after meeting with President Trump to speak about the Russia-Ukraine war, among other things.
My conclusion from this encounter is different from perhaps the public image. This American government is open to discussion, listens, and is prepared to accept other opinions.
The Chancellor highlighted the importance of strong ties between Europe and the US. Arian Pastar, NTD News.
The European Union has thrown its support behind the International Criminal Court and against the United States for its sanctions on 4 ICC judges. Our Washington correspondent Luis Adoro Martinez has more on this story.
The European Commission has expressed its support of the International Criminal Court after the Trump administration issued sanctions against 4 ICC judges who, according to the State Department, directly engaged in activities to investigate, arrest, detain, or prosecute nationals of the United States or Israel without the consent of the United States or Israel.
The Commission fully supports the International Criminal Court and its officials that this court holds perpetrators of the world's gravest crimes to account and gives victims a voice. It must be free to act without pressure. We will always stand for global justice and the respect of international law.
The European Commission went as far as promising to protect the International Criminal Court's staff from the impacts of the sanctions, but did not mention any specific actions.
On ICC, we have a clear position. It is the cornerstone of the international justice and the fight against impunity. We deeply regret the decision to impose sanctions on 4 additional individuals, and we will provide also the full support and contribution to ensure the protection of the court and its staff.
The United States State Department reiterated in a statement that the United States and Israel do not form part of the Rome Statute, which outlines the jurisdiction and powers of the International Criminal Court. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that the ICC politicized and falsely claims unfettered discretion to investigate, charge, and prosecute nationals of the United States and our allies. The sanctions will block any assets the judges have in the U.S. and forbid U.S. entities from engaging in transactions with them. The International Criminal Court issued last November arrest warrants against Prime Minister of Israel Benjamin Netanyahu and former Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant for actions in the Israeli-Hamas conflict. The ICC has also launched investigation against U.S. officials for actions that happened during the Afghanistan war. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
In Lebanon, residents are dealing with the aftermath of more Israeli airstrikes in their capital. Meanwhile, Israeli forces announced the successful deployment of a new laser weapon system. NTD's Jason Perry has the details.
Explosions rang out across Lebanon's capital of Beirut on Thursday night. Israeli forces issued evacuation orders to residents before launching at least 10 airstrikes on reported Hezbollah terrorist targets in the city. Prior to the strikes, Israel said they had found multiple underground attack drone production sites in Beirut that were funded by Iranian terrorists. On Friday, some Lebanese residents reacted to the strikes.
2 buildings were completely destroyed. Israel claimed there was a military facility there, but there is nothing.
We were at home when they sent the warning. We had our children with us. We carried them and went down. What you see here, it looks like just a residential building.
But the Israel Defense Forces spokesperson said this after the strikes.
The renewed production was intended to prepare Hezbollah for carrying out thousands more UAV attacks against Israeli civilians in the future. We will not allow that to happen.
The general also said that 4 Israeli troops were killed in combat in the Gaza Strip on Friday morning. This comes just days after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel was taking steps to prevent such deaths.
Unfortunately, there are no free wars, and the price you pay, the price the people of Israel pay, is heavy, sometimes seems unbearable. But we will achieve the goals of the war, all of them without exception.
And in an effort to protect soldiers and civilians, Israel recently deployed new high-powered laser weapon systems designed to intercept enemy threats. Israel says they've already been used successfully in the field. A retired Israeli general says Israel is the first in the world to demonstrate large-scale operational laser interception capabilities. Also on Friday, residents in the Gaza Strip held prayers for the Muslim holiday of Eid.
We decided to go to the mosques, our place of prayer, to mark our Eid, and to say to the world that the Palestinian people are steadfast and patient. God willing, all their injuries, all their hunger, all their destruction will be considered by God.
On the same day, thousands of Muslims in Jerusalem also attended prayers to mark the occasion. Israel is known for having the most religious freedom in the Middle East. Jason Perry, NTD News.
Reports indicate that Chinese companies will provide ballistic missile materials to Iran. According to reporting from the Wall Street Journal, Iran has purchased ammonium perchlorate from Hong Kong-based Lion Commodities Holding. The amount would allow Iran to build approximately 800 ballistic missiles to arm its proxies in the region, like Hezbollah in Lebanon and the Houthis in Yemen. The purchase predates President Trump's proposed nuclear talks with the Iranian regime. As a feud continues between two of the world's most powerful men, President Trump says he's focused on policy and not on Elon Musk. NTD's White House correspondent Iris Tao has more.
A day after a dramatic blow-up of their relationship in public, President Trump told different reporters in phone interviews that he's not particularly interested in talking to Elon Musk now, who he says has, quote, lost his mind. But he also emphasized that he's now moving forward and focused on domestic and foreign policy, not on Musk or anything else. That echoing his message yesterday.
I'd rather have him criticize me than the bill.
Musk, after spending much of Thursday attacking Trump and his policies, held off on Friday, reposting only about DOGE and his own companies. The apparent attempts to calm things down from both sides come as Republicans in Congress are rallying to Trump's side while also calling for a truce between the two.
I feel like the kids of a bitter divorce where you're just saying, I really wish mommy and daddy would stop screaming.
Look, I believe in redemption. I hope we can resolve it and get everybody together again. That's really important for all of us.
And Democratic leaders, though, back Musk in trying to kill Trump's massive tax bill.
That Elon Musk has made the point that the bill is a disgusting abomination.
The Republican House Speaker warning today that if Trump's big, beautiful bill does not pass,
then we're not going to have the House majority. And if we lose the House majority, and everything will go to chaos.
As the White House tries to move on, the president did not open his events today or talk to us on his way out. But on True Social, he reposted a statement from a lawyer who says he was hired to represent Jeffrey Epstein, and Epstein told him that he had no information to hurt Trump. This after Musk on Thursday escalated his attacks on the bill to Trump personally, accusing him of ties to the disgraced financer. And on Friday, Trump announced that his trade team will meet with China next Monday in London for a next round of trade talks. And that's part of what he agreed to with Xi Jinping during a call this week after the U.S. accused China of violating the trade deal. Reporting from the White House, Iris Tao, NTD News.
The Supreme Court cleared the way today for the Department of Government Efficiency to access Social Security systems that contain data on millions of Americans. Justices Elena Kagan, Sonia Sotomayor, and Ketanji Brown Jackson dissented from the decision. The majority blocked an order from a judge in Maryland that restricted the team's access, citing federal privacy laws. The agency holds sensitive data on nearly everyone in the country, including school records, salary details, and medical information. The Justice Department has argued that DOGE, formerly led by Elon Musk, needs access to carry out its mission of targeting waste and fraud in the federal government. Under the Supreme Court's order, members of DOGE are permitted to access the records while litigation proceeds in a lower court. Coming up, a secret terrorist watch list used by air marshals terminated. Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem announces the move, saying the program devolved into a political weapon. Jack Bradley takes a closer look. Governor Gavin Newsom is rolling out a new plan to boost reading skills for California students. His multi-billion-dollar initiative aims to help kids read better and succeed in school. Christina Corona reports from the West Coast. And the Trump administration is asking the Supreme Court to greenlight efforts to lay off more than 1,300 Education Department employees. That and more after the break. Welcome back. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem terminates a program that targeted air travelers for additional screenings. She says the program was abused to target political opponents. NTD's Washington correspondent Jack Bradley has the details.
I'm announcing that TSA is ending the Quiet Skies program, which involved having a federal agent follow U.S. citizens as they traveled by air.
Homeland Security is ending its Quiet Skies list, a program that provides extra screening to airline passengers identified as potentially being dangerous. Those passengers are subject to more invasive security screenings by TSA officers at airports. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says that the program is being abolished because it's been used to target political enemies and failed to stop terrorist attacks.
And since its existence, it has failed to stop a single terrorist attack, while it costs U.S. taxpayers roughly about $200 million a year. And this program, under the guise of national security, has targeted political opponents and benefited political allies of the Biden administration.
Noem called on Congress to investigate the matter further. It allowed air marshals to monitor U.S. citizens on domestic and international flights. It tracked passengers' behavior, appearance, as well as electronics. The program came under fire after Tulsi Gabbard was temporarily placed on the list prior to being named Director of National Intelligence. Gabbard said at the time that her addition to the list was politically motivated. She took to X on Thursday, calling the abolition of Quiet Skies a meaningful step towards restoring the trust of the American people and defending liberty. Republican Congressman Mark Green, he's the chairman of the House Committee on Homeland Security, praised the move, saying that the program devolved into a political watch list. But the committee's Democrat ranking member, Benny Thompson, says that Gabbard was rightfully put on that list, adding that she should be more careful who she associates herself with. The department also says that the program excluded members of royal families, political elites, pro athletes, and favored journalists. Reporting by Jack Bradley, NTD News.
The man accused of carrying out an anti-Semitic attack in Boulder, Colorado, is facing nearly 120 charges, including 28 counts of attempted murder. Here are the details.
This is People versus Mohammed Soliman.
Appearing behind thick glass with hands and feet shackled, Egyptian national Mohammed Soliman, who was accused of firebombing a Colorado march, was formally charged in state court Thursday. He faces well over 600 years in prison if convicted on 28 counts of attempted murder. Those are just a portion of charges confirmed against him Thursday as District Judge Nancy Salamone presided over the hearing.
The court accepts the waiver of formal advisement, and 118 charges were filed.
The rest of the charges include assault, use of incendiary devices, and animal cruelty. On Thursday, Soliman agreed to his next court date set for July 15th. He made no other comments or gestures and was not asked to enter a plea. Prosecutors say that Soliman threw Molotov cocktails and yelled "Free Palestine" at people taking part in an event that aimed to draw attention to hostages seized during Hamas's 2023 attack on Israel. Soliman entered the U.S. on a tourist visa in 2022. Federal officials say he overstayed that tourist visa and was in the country illegally. His family, including his wife, 2 teenagers, and 3 younger children, were taken into custody on Tuesday and may be deported, though a federal judge on Wednesday blocked their immediate removal. Soliman also faces federal hate crimes charges that carry a life sentence if he is convicted. He is scheduled to appear in federal court on Friday.
California Governor Gavin Newsom launches the Golden State Literacy Plan. It's a step-by-step strategy that aims to improve student reading achievement across California. NTD's Christina Corona tells us more about the initiative.
California Governor Gavin Newsom visited Clinton Elementary School in Compton, highlighting rising test scores and unveiling his Golden State Literacy Plan to boost students' reading skills statewide.
We have a responsibility to do more and do better as it relates to the educational outcomes, particularly as it relates to literacy in this state.
The Golden State Literacy Plan will roll out over several years, aiming to help students develop strong reading skills, analyze diverse texts, think critically, and communicate effectively both orally and in writing. Newsom says the state invested close to $29 million to develop a free literacy screener with the University of California, San Francisco. It will address the needs of students with reading challenges, including those who are learning English. It rolls out this fall, backed by $25 million for teacher training. He's also asking lawmakers to expand funding for learning specialists and is adding $500 million to support the effort.
We're going to provide another $500 million to provide additional supports. The superintendent mentioned 818 schools that have taken advantage of these learning specialists. 3,000 teachers have gotten the training. We've created regional hubs all throughout the state.
In addition, the governor's budget includes $4.4 billion for universal after-school and summer programs, with a new $435 million proposal to expand it further.
$4.4 billion of additional investment for After School for All and Summer School for All. That focus is firm. In fact, we're adding an additional $435 million in this year's budget to complete that job. 9 hours a day of enriched learning opportunity and a minimum of 30 days during the summer.
Newsom says his struggle with dyslexia is what drives his passion to help students who feel left behind.
I know there's so many others that are on that similar journey, and I know that they are struggling, and I know that many are left behind. A lot of those kids are called dumb. A lot of those kids end up in special education, where I sort of crossed over here and there, and you have all these remarkable people that just need a little bit of support.
Newsom says that despite setbacks from COVID-19, California made progress in literacy, with one of the nation's biggest gains in fourth grade reading on the National Assessment of Educational Progress test. Reporting from El Monte, Christina Corona, NTD News.
In a new Supreme Court filing today, the Trump administration is asking the justices to allow for Education Department layoffs to continue while the case proceeds. The request comes in the face of a pair of lawsuits brought by a group of 20 states, school districts, and teachers' unions. They're challenging the administration's plan to permanently close the department. A federal judge in Massachusetts blocked the layoffs, finding that it would further facilitate the president's effort to close the department, which he said would violate the separation of powers. In April, the High Court allowed the government to cancel millions of dollars in education grants related to diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. The Justice Department is asking the court for emergency relief. Is education shifting back into the hands of parents? What can the Trump administration do for parents who were labeled domestic terrorists under the previous administration? Tune in at 7 p.m. Eastern Time for Capitol Report with Steve Lance to hear first-hand stories from our panel. Republican Congressman Andy Ogles of Tennessee, actress and radio show host Sam Sorbo, and founder of Freedom Talk, Kelly Walker. Coming up, a moment of reflection in Normandy. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth and France's defense minister led a ceremony honoring those who stormed the beaches of Normandy 81 years ago. And a retired U.S. Navy SEAL officer joins us to discuss the lessons we can learn from D-Day when we come back. Welcome back. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth honors the thousands of Allied troops who made the ultimate sacrifice on D-Day 81 years ago. NTD correspondent Jason Blair has more on Hegseth's remarks in Normandy.
Without the sacrifices of American, French, British, and other Allied powers, we would not have the free world.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth gives remarks in Normandy, France on the 81st anniversary of D-Day.
A more daring assault had never been planned.
Hegseth describes the day in 1944 when over 150,000 soldiers invaded 5 beaches in Normandy. It was a significant turning point in World War II that laid the groundwork to eventually defeat the Nazis. Defense secretaries from France and the UK delivered remarks as well.
It is a rare thing to have changed the course of history, but that is what the veterans of Normandy did. And through their valor, we inherited a free world.
This afternoon, we do not forget. We do not forget the heroism. We do not forget the friendship nor the fraternity. We do not forget the bloodshed for our freedom.
Veterans attended and were celebrated throughout the event.
Thank you to our distinguished guests. None more distinguished than our veterans.
We are humbled to be in your company. We give eternal thanks for your sacrifice.
A ceremony was held in honor of the fallen soldiers. Hegseth lays a wreath and offers a salute. Moving to the present, Hegseth says that the U.S. and France rally together to confront current threats to peace. He stresses the importance of remembering the history of D-Day.
Because we strive for peace, we must prepare for war and hopefully deter it. We must ensure that our children and our grandchildren know what these men did, that they understand.
Jason Blair, NTD News.
Joining us now is Mike Sorelli. He's a retired U.S. Navy SEAL officer and former enlisted recon Marine and Scout sniper. He's also the Chief Talent Officer of Overwatch Mission Critical and a best-selling author. Mike, thank you so much for joining us. Good to see you again. Now, to begin, it's been 81 years since D-Day, a pivotal moment in World War II. Talk to us about the meaning of that day and why it's so important to remember this day.
Well, it was a day in which we embarked, as Eisenhower said, on a great journey. The fate of the free world depended on these men about to invade or land on Europe and liberate it for people that they didn't even know. And hundreds of thousands of young men and women stepped up and willingly gave their lives, again, for people they didn't know. So it shows when sacrifice, commitment, unity come together from people from different nations, that we can accomplish almost anything. And that's why we remember this day, we remember their sacrifice, and we honor them.
When it comes to the sacrifices that day, Omaha Beach was one of the bloodiest, leading to the U.S. losing most of the Allied troops that day, around 2,400 Americans. How can we best honor their sacrifices?
I think they showed us that when you stand, live, and die for something bigger than yourself, that is the standard. I mean, 2,400 people lost their lives in almost an instant. Some of them didn't even hit the sands of the beach. So for that, we owe them more than just one day of remembrance. We owe them our character. That's no different than the military. When you come in, you owe your character to the generation that paved the way for you, that were willing to give their lives and sacrifices to keep that legacy and that memory alive. And so we owe them how we conduct and live our lives to make it a better and freer world that they wished for.
Expanding on that, Secretary Hegseth marking the occasion in Normandy today, saying, quote, good men are still needed to stand up. To this point, D-Day wasn't just a success in terms of strategy. It was also an example, as you pointed out, of people driven by something bigger than themselves, knowingly heading into a dangerous place where return is not guaranteed. What lessons can we draw from that day to apply to the next generation?
I think it was the highest form of leadership and selflessness that we've ever seen. It also shows that what we can do when we come together in the face of tyranny. But, you know, for this generation, and that's my generation included, we're so inundated with comforts and entitlement that we forget that the world doesn't bend towards justice. It requires good men and women to stand up, to put their lives on the line. And there's a quote we know well in the military that the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men and women to stand by and do nothing. And so it takes bravery to step up in the face of evil and confront it and defeat it.
And Mike, digging into that further, what role do you think faith played for the troops who stormed the beaches of Normandy and ultimately in the victory over the Nazis?
That's an interesting question. Faith was our greatest weapon. We didn't defeat the Nazis with guns and ships and airplanes. They played a part. It was our faith. It was unshakable. It was unbreakable. And faith brings you peace when you're in chaos. Faith brings you resolve in the face of hardship. And at the end of the day, we say there are no atheists in a foxhole. Faith means everything. Faith not only in God, but the man to your left and to your right.
And Mike, given the current frictions around the world today, what lessons can we draw from D-Day when Allied troops from the U.S., Britain, Canada, other countries all came together to strike at Nazi Germany?
Yes, that greatest generation showed us what unity looks like, where British, Americans, Canadians came together in the face of tyranny, in the face of what could have been potential defeat, and they rose above it. It's putting this pettiness aside and remember that the challenges we have right now are not as grave as we think, though we are at the brink of war or regional war breaking out into global war. But we require unity amongst our allies to confront this axis of resistance that does not stand for the values that we know to be true. And so we need to put those petty arguments about petty things aside, come together about the things that matter. And again, freedom is always one decade away from extinction. And Ronald Reagan said it. We need to protect the freedoms we have. We need to stand together. We need to work together. And again, make this a better place for the generation that we pass it off to.
Mike Cirilli, as always, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Divine intervention in our nation's founding. A new docudrama titled The American Miracle made its debut this week at the Kennedy Center. NTD's Sam Wong was at the red carpet event to speak with the cast and crew.
We hold these truths to be self-evident.
The genesis of a nation with the help of divine power. A red carpet premiere for The American Miracle was held at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday. The tagline, "Our nation is no accident."
You can say America's a happy accident, but a pattern of happy accidents is still a pattern.
Look at people from all over the world are trying to become a part of this nation, and there's a reason. It's because of the liberties. And those liberties, in the end, the founders saw that those liberties really came from a power higher than a king, and it was a power from God.
From commanding the Continental Army under extreme conditions to drafting some of the most important documents in U.S. history, The American Miracle explores the role of divine providence in our nation's origin. Dr. Ben Carson served as the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development during the first Trump administration.
It's impossible for a ragtag bunch of militiamen to defeat the most powerful military force on earth without some intervention. And this helps to remind us that we don't have to try to be like everybody else. We're not like everybody else. We're one nation under God, indivisible with liberty and justice for all.
Featuring a large cast, The American Miracle is a multi-year effort put together by both historians and filmmakers.
This is a labor of love that's 3 years in the making, and it's wonderful to see the culmination tonight when we actually have a premiere with all of these people who came, who wanted to see it. It's just fantastic.
I hope it gets into every single school of all ages, not just college kids. It's got to go to kindergarten kids. We got to let these kids know why they have the opportunity to be in the greatest country in the world.
The docudrama comes in celebration of the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Scholars say it's crucial to reflect on the founding principles that helped shape the world's most powerful nation.
It's not just America's 250th, it's the culture that we have right now. Making sure that we go back to basics and understand what our founding fathers were trying to get us to do. That social contract that they envisioned, that would be our Constitution, that embodies what we as a people, how we want to be governed.
The American Miracle will be screened nationwide in selected theaters on June 9th, 10th, and 11th. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Sam Wong, NTD News.
Coming up, a 16-year-old track star has supporters on her side after celebrating her championship title. Officials disqualified the athlete. How she's trying to get it back. And in the NBA, the Pacers do it yet again, this time to the Thunder and on the game's biggest stage. Dave Martin joins us to discuss when we come back. Welcome back. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Officials, influencers, and many others are coming to the defense of a teenage track star. The sophomore was recently stripped of her championship title. NTD's David Lamb has more.
Supporters of a teenage track star, Clara Adams, are calling for a reinstatement of her championship title. Civil rights attorney Adante Pointer and the NAACP spoke to the public on Friday morning in Salinas, where the 16-year-old athlete goes to school.
CIF
tough official walked over to this 16-year-old girl, forcefully grabbed her on her arm, and then was dragging her away while yelling in her face. That caused its own level of battery as well as emotional distress. And her dad was sitting there watching the whole thing, and he was livid.
On May 31st, Adams earned the fastest time in a 400-meter dash among female sprinters, finishing one lap in 53.24 seconds. Afterwards, she grabbed a fire extinguisher from her dad and coach and sprayed her shoes with it. Officials with the California Interscholastic Federation called her aside and disqualified her from the gold title, claiming unsportsmanlike conduct and excessive celebration. Adams wasn't allowed to run in the next 200-meter dash either. She said she worked hard for the championship and felt robbed of her achievement.
This is not her last race, but this was a championship crowning of a race. But she has other opportunities in the future to race and compete. And so in order for her to perform at her highest level, she has to be in the right mental state.
Her dad, who is also her coach, said the celebratory action was paying homage to Olympic gold medalist Maurice Green, who celebrated in a similar manner after a win in 2004. David Lamb, NTD News, California.
Now in more sports news, we're joined by NTD's Dave Martin. Dave, plenty going on today, but let's start at the French Open, as a pair of semifinal matches today leave us with a number 1 versus number 2 matchup for the title.
Yeah, number 1 ranked Jannik Sinner down to 24-time Grand Slam champion Novak Djokovic this afternoon to advance to the finals. Now, Sinner has never won the French Open before, but he's won each of the last 2 majors. He still has not dropped a set in this entire tournament, so he's definitely coming in here on fire for sure. Now, for Djokovic, he definitely had a good showing at the French Open, certainly compared to the rest of his season. But anyway, he is out. Sinner moves on. He'll face second-ranked Carlos Alcaraz. Now, Alcaraz earlier today beat 8th-ranked Lorenzo Musetti in 4 sets. Now, Musetti actually had to retire in the 4th set with some kind of leg injury. Let's listen to what Musetti said afterwards about the injury.
I start to feel like at the beginning of the 4th that I couldn't go for the rallies, and I could not move like I was doing before, and there was too much risk, to take to go forward and to be able to, of course, show something even for the crowd. And honestly, I felt that was from a serve. I felt something, so I started from that, and then I, called the physio, the medical, and then after that I started to think about it more, and I started to feel it that was going worse and worse.
So this sets up a 1 versus 2 men's matchup for the finalists. Number 1 ranked Jannik Sinner versus number 2 ranked Carlos Alcaraz. Now, also the same thing for the women's. We've got number 1 ranked Aryna Sabalenka taking on 2nd ranked Coco Gauff in the women's championship tomorrow. That'll be at 9 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow morning, Tiff. So it's kind of satisfying to see the rankings play out. They got it right here. We got 1 versus 2, both the men's and women's. I'm glad to see it.
And you'll be busy tomorrow. Moving to NBA news, last night the Pacers shocked the Thunder in Game 1 with another 4th quarter comeback. Where does this one rank?
I've been debating that one as well. I was talking yesterday, they've had like 3 miracle comebacks this playoffs where they're down between 7 and 9 points with just a minute left. This time with a minute left, they got it down to 3, but they'd yet to lead the entire game. In fact, they were down 15 points earlier there in the 4th quarter. Anyway, Tyrese Halliburton's jumper was their first lead when there were 0.3 seconds left, and of course they held on to win there. Let's listen to what they said after the game.
We've had a lot of experience in these kinds of games, and our guys have a real good feel for what it's all about, giving ourselves a chance, and we got fortunate, but made plays.
I think all series, that's what we've preached as a group is, when we get down big, let's just find a way to incrementally get it down. And it was at 15, and we got it to 8 pretty fast, and that gave us confidence. We kept getting stops, Miles and Andrew made big play after big play down the stretch. Miles got a wide open look on the wing, missed that one, but we just stuck with it. Andrew was huge down the stretch, and we got a big stop there, and they got a lot of confidence in me to make that shot. So I don't know what you say about it. I just know that this group is a resilient group, and we don't give up till it's zero on the clock.
That's a really good team. Credit them. For not only tonight, but their run. They've had so many games like that that have seemed improbable, and they just play with a great spirit. They keep coming. They keep playing. They made plays. They made shots. So they deserve to win by a point. We got to learn from it. There's obviously a lot of things we can clean up, but credit them. They went and got that game.
Yet another miracle win. Game 2 will be Sunday in Oklahoma City with the Thunder down 1-0. Much to my surprise.
Well, shifting gears to baseball, the Pacers weren't the only ones with an improbable win last night as Arizona rallied from a 6-run deficit in the final inning to beat Atlanta. What happened there?
Yeah. When Eugenio Suarez of Arizona, when he came to the plate in the 9th inning and he struck out, they were down 10-4. Statistically speaking, they had a 99.9% chance of losing. But somehow the next batter homered. Then we had a walk and another home run. All of a sudden they're down 10-7. Then you had a walk, out, 3 more hits. All of a sudden Suarez, who started off the inning with a strikeout, comes back to the plate. His team down 10-9. He doubles in 2 runs. Diamondbacks end up improbably winning 11-10. Now, of course, this wasn't a playoff game like the Pacers was. In fact, I think this one actually happened earlier, so maybe earlier in the day. This is a late afternoon game. Pacers, of course, were at night, so possibly maybe the Pacers got a little bit of inspiration from this. But anyway, in franchise history, Arizona had trailed after the 8th inning by 6 runs or more 419 times. Never had they come back to the win. This was their first time ever doing that. So quite a first yesterday in baseball too, huh?
All the miracle plays there. Well, looking at NHL news, Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Finals is tonight between the Oilers and Panthers. What are you looking for in tonight's game?
Well, for Edmonton, they cannot take their foot off the gas. They had that great comeback win 2 nights ago to take a 1-0 lead. The Panthers, though, are a great road team. This game is going to be in Edmonton. Panthers are 8-3 on the road in these playoffs. They've got some big wins there too. Games 5 and 7 against Toronto. They won there on the road. Also, this is the 6th time since the start of the 2023 playoffs that they've dropped Game 1. Now, for the previous 5 times, they ended up coming back to win this series. So tonight, Game 2 at Edmonton, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Oilers lead 1-0.
Well, David Thomas, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Tiff.
And that's all for today's news. For on-the-clock coverage, visit us at ntd.com/live or download our NTD app. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Good night.